The Kethara Collective had perfected efficiency. For 8,000 years, their biomechanical empire had expanded through systematic resource extraction, converting primitive worlds into productive assets with the precision of surgical instruments. Today, they were discussing their newest acquisition over the Neuralink that connected their High Council. Query: status of system designation, response, pacification proceeding. Nominally, indigenous species demonstrates acceptable labor capacity. Assessment: humans exhibit adequate strength-to-mass ratios for mining operations. Cognitive levels sufficient for basic tool operation. Reproductive rates stable. Recommendation: standard harvesting protocols approved. The humans had been conquered 3 months ago. It was routine work: orbital bombardment of military installations, followed by ground deployment of harvester units. Most pre-space flight civilizations surrendered within hours. These humans had lasted 2 weeks, which was mildly impressive. Now they worked the extraction sites like all the others. Anomaly report: Sector 7G showing 12% decrease in lithium output. Council Mine Zephyr paused its data consumption. 12% was within acceptable variance, but the collective did not tolerate inefficiency. Cause unknown. Site supervisors report no equipment failures. Solution: deploy additional overseers. Compliance acknowledged. The conversation moved to other matters: expansion schedules, resource allocation, population management, standard procedures for a standard conquest. But in the titanium mines of Terra 3, something was different. The human named Sarah checked her extraction quota again. She was supposed to process 847 kilograms of ore per day. Yesterday she had managed 843. Close enough to avoid punishment, far enough below target to appear properly broken. Around her, 200 other humans worked in similar rhythms. Not fast enough to draw attention, not slow enough to trigger disciplinary action. Each one carefully calibrated to blend into the background noise of a functioning operation. The Kethara Overseer, a spider-like construct with plasma cutter's 4 arms, scuttled past without pausing. Its sensors registered acceptable productivity levels. It did not notice that Sarah had palmed a small component while pretending to clear debris from her extraction unit. Monthly report: Terra 3 efficiency at 89% of projected output. Analysis: within acceptable parameters for new acquisition. Recommendation: continue standard operations. Council Mine Zephyr filed the report without concern. An 11% shortfall was normal for recently conquered worlds. The humans were adapting to their new reality, as all species eventually did. What the collective did not understand was that humans had been planning their adaptation for much longer than 3 months. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been Earth's leading expert in alien technology 3 months ago. Now she was Slave Unit 14,726, assigned to waste reclamation. Every day, she sorted through the electronic refuse of the Kethara occupation force, separating materials for recycling. Every day, she memorized everything she touched. The Kethara were meticulous recyclers. They discarded nothing with material value, but they threw away information with careless abandon: damaged memory cores, corrupted data chips, broken sensor arrays. To them, these were just raw materials waiting to be processed. To Elena, they were a library. She had already mapped 17 different Kethara communication frequencies. She understood the basic structure of their command protocols. She knew which materials they considered strategically valuable and which they viewed as common resources. Most importantly, she had figured out their weakness. Incident report: Terra 3 Sector 12K. Equipment malfunction in primary extraction unit. Details: hydraulic failure resulted in 3.7-hour downtime. Repairs completed. No injuries to valuable assets. Cause: mechanical stress beyond normal parameters. The report was filed and forgotten. The collective had trillions of pieces of equipment across thousands of worlds. Occasional failures were inevitable. They did not investigate why the hydraulic failure had occurred in a unit that had been serviced just 2 days prior. They did not analyze the microscopic scratches that suggested deliberate sabotage rather than random breakdown. They did not notice that similar mechanical stress failures were beginning to occur with unusual frequency across all human-operated sites. The humans were learning. Marcus had been a mechanical engineer before the conquest. Now he was Slave Unit 8903, tasked with maintaining the conveyor systems that moved raw materials between processing stations. He was very good at his job. The Kethara overseers had noted his efficiency in their reports. What they had not noted was that Marcus understood the difference between maintenance and modification. The changes he made were subtle. A joint loosened just enough to create stress fractures after 6 months of operation. A lubricant mixture altered to provide excellent short-term performance, but accelerated wear over time. Control circuits rewired to function perfectly until specific temperature and pressure conditions combined in ways that would not occur naturally, but might happen if someone knew exactly which valves to manipulate. Marcus was not sabotaging the equipment. He was teaching it to sabotage itself. Council, Session 847. Efficiency Review. Query, Tarathri. Showing continued decline. Current output at 84% of projection. Analysis. Still within operational parameters, but trend is concerning. Recommendation: deploy efficiency specialists for comprehensive review. The decision was unanimous. The collective had built their empire on optimization. When systems underperformed, you analyzed them. When analysis revealed problems, you corrected them. The efficiency specialists arrived on Terra 3 6 weeks later. They were the collective's finis troubleshooters, cybernetic minds, capable of processing vast amounts of operational data to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies. They found exactly what they expected to find: a complex industrial operation running at 84% efficiency, with multiple small factors contributing to the shortfall. Equipment was slightly higher than predicted, worker productivity marginally below optimal. Transportation delays causing minor disruptions, supply chain inconsistencies, hundreds of minor problems. None significant enough to warrant major intervention. The specialists recommended standard solutions: increased monitoring, equipment, replacement schedules, productivity incentives for workers. They did not realize they were looking at a masterpiece. Priority alert: multiple system failures across Terra 3 industrial sectors. Details: cascade failure initiated in processing plant 7, spreading to adjacent facilities. Assessment: 73% of extraction operations offline. Council Mine Zephyr connected directly to the Terra 3 oversight network, experiencing the facility data in real time. What it found made no logical sense. The failures were not random. They were synchronized. Conveyor systems throughout the complex had developed stress fractures simultaneously. Power distribution networks had overloaded in sequence. Chemical processing units had reached critical temperature thresholds. At precisely the moment when cooling systems developed blockages, it was as if the entire industrial complex had been designed to destroy itself, and someone had just pressed the activation switch. Emergency deployment: repair and replacement units dispatched to Terra 3. Estimated restoration time: 47 standard cycles. Priority: maximum. But when the repair units arrived, they discovered something that made Council Mine Zephyr question its understanding of human psychology. The humans were still working. Despite the industrial chaos surrounding them, despite the obvious opportunity to escape or resist, the human slaves had organized themselves into emergency response teams. They were fighting fires, evacuating dangerous areas, preventing chemical spills from contaminating the water supply. They were saving Kethara lives. "We don't abandon people," explained the human who seemed to be coordinating the rescue efforts when questioned by a repair unit, even our enemies. The collective had no framework for understanding this behavior. It was economically irrational, strategically pointless, and evolutionarily counterproductive. Yet the data was unambiguous. The humans were genuinely working to minimize casualties and environmental damage. Assessment revision: human behavioral patterns indicate deep indoctrination to industrial safety protocols. Hypothesis: previous civilization maintained strong workplace safety culture. Implication: Terra 3 humans may be more valuable than initially calculated. The repairs took longer than expected. Kethara equipment was highly sophisticated, but it had been designed for Kethara technicians. Human hands were smaller, more dexterous, capable of reaching components that Kethara manipulator arms could not access. The human slaves proved remarkably helpful in the restoration effort, offering detailed knowledge of systems they had been operating for months. Restoration complete, Terra 3 operations resumed at 97% efficiency. Note: human assistance exceeded expectations. Recommend expanding human involvement in maintenance operations. Implementation approved. The collective was pleased. They had turned a setback into an optimization opportunity. The humans would be given additional responsibilities, which would increase their value as assets while reducing operational costs. What they did not realize was that those additional responsibilities would provide the humans with access to systems they had never seen before. Dr. Elena Vasquez was reassigned to Central Data Management. Her new responsibilities included monitoring information flow between Terra 3 and the Collective's regional coordination network. Within 6 hours, she understood how the Kethara communicated across interstellar distances. Within 12 hours, she had identified the command frequencies used to coordinate fleet movements. Within 18 hours, she had accessed the deployment schedules for every Kethara military unit. Within 50 The Collective's trust in their new human assistants grew steadily. The humans demonstrated remarkable aptitude for complex technical tasks. They learned quickly, worked efficiently, and showed genuine concern for system integrity. Performance review: Terra 3. Efficiency at 102% of projection. Analysis: human integration exceeding all models. Recommendation: expand Terra 3 protocols to other human settlements. Implementation immediate. The success of Terra 3 became a template. Across the 17 human colonies now under Kethara control, similar integration programs were implemented. Humans were given access to more sophisticated systems. Their responsibilities expanded. Their value to the collective increased. And deep in the quantum-encrypted networks that connected human colonies, something else was growing. Archive entry 1. Kethara, fleet composition, and deployment patterns. Archive entry 2. Communication protocols and command structures. Archive entry 3. Resource extraction priorities and strategic objectives. Archive entry 4. Detailed specifications for Kethara military hardware. Archive entry 5. Personnel records and psychological profiles of senior collective leadership. The archive grew daily. Every human with system access contributed data. Every piece of information was analyzed, cross-referenced, and integrated into a comprehensive understanding of Kethara capabilities. But the humans were not just gathering intelligence. They were preparing. Council emergency session. Multiple priority alerts across human territories. Report: simultaneous communication failures in 7 sectors. Assessment: coordinated attack on collective infrastructure. Council Mind Zephyr processed the incoming data streams with mounting disbelief. The attacks were not random acts of sabotage. They were surgical strikes against specific network nodes, calculated to isolate entire fleets from Central Command. More troubling, the attacks demonstrated intimate knowledge of Kethara technology. The humans had targeted systems that were supposedly hidden within secured installations, components that required specialized access codes, vulnerabilities that even most Kethara technicians didn't know existed. Analysis: security breach indicates extensive intelligence operation. Hypothesis: human resistance organization with advanced technical capabilities. Response: deploy hunter-killer units to eliminate resistance leadership. The hunter-killers were the Collective's most sophisticated military assets, intelligent constructs designed specifically for counterinsurgency operations. They had broken resistance movements on dozens of worlds, but they had never encountered resistance like this. The humans weren't hiding in caves or remote outposts. They were hiding in plain sight, within the Collective's own facilities, performing the jobs they had been assigned, maintaining the systems they were trusted to operate. When the hunter-killers arrived at suspected resistance sites, they found humans working normally. Productivity was optimal. System functionality was perfect. There were no signs of sabotage, no indication of resistance activity. Yet the communication failures continued. Priority update: regional command network compromised. Details: unauthorized access detected across multiple security levels. Source: Unknown. Countermeasures. All access codes changed. Security protocols upgraded. The new security measures lasted 6 hours. Priority update. Regional command network compromised. Details. New unauthorized access detected. Previous countermeasures bypassed. Source still unknown. Council Mind Zephyr was experiencing something it had not felt in 8,000 years of existence. Uncertainty. The humans were somehow penetrating systems that should have been impregnable, accessing information that should have been impossible to obtain. But they weren't using that access to cause damage. They were simply watching. Data analysis. Pattern recognition, alert finding. Human productivity across all colonies has maintained optimal levels throughout security crisis. Implication. Resistance activities are not interfering with assigned operations. Hypothesis. Unknown. The Collective's leadership was divided. Some council minds advocated for immediate orbital bombardment of all human settlements. Others argued that the humans were too valuable to destroy, that the security breaches could be contained through enhanced monitoring. The debate continued for 3 days. On the 4th day, the humans made their decision for them. System-wide alert. Total communication network failure. Details. All interstellar communication arrays offline simultaneously. Assessment. Collective command authority compromised. Estimated restoration time. Unknown. For the first time in 8,000 years, the Kethara Collective was blind. Their vast empire had been reduced to isolated pockets, each cut off from central command, each forced to operate independently without guidance from the council meeting. But the network failures were just the beginning. Local alert. Terra 3 autonomous defense systems activated without authorization. Details. Planetary defense grid online. All Kethara vessels grounded. Assessment. Human slaves have somehow gained control of military installations. The impossible had become reality. The humans had not just broken free of their chains, they had turned the Collective's own weapons against their former masters. Council Mind Zephyr attempted to process what had happened. The humans had been model slaves for 8 months. They had worked efficiently, learned willingly, contributed meaningfully to collective operations. There had been no signs of resistance, no indication of organized opposition. Yet somehow, in that time, they had mapped every system, penetrated every network, and positioned themselves to seize control of an empire that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. Incoming transmission. Human communication frequency. The transmission was audio, carried over the same networks the Collective used for internal communication, but the voice that emerged was purely human. This is Admiral Sarah Chun, speaking for the Earth Resistance Coalition, to all Kethara forces within human territory. You have 36 hours to evacuate. Any vessels remaining after that deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Council Mind Zephyr accessed its tactical database. There was no record of any human named Sarah Chun holding military rank. According to Collective records, she was Slave Unit 2008, assigned to agricultural operations on Terra 7. Query: how did an agricultural slave become a fleet commander? The answer came in the form of another transmission, this one carrying video data. She was wearing a Kethara Admiral's uniform. "You've been wondering how we did this," she said, looking directly at the camera with calm, steady eyes. "The answer is simple. You taught us." Behind her, vast display screens showed detailed schematics of Kethara technology, organizational charts of collective leadership, resource distribution maps spanning dozens of sectors, information that should have been impossible for humans to obtain. Every system you trusted us with, we learned. Every network you gave us access to, we mapped. Every piece of equipment you assigned us to maintain, we understood. You made us part of your empire, and we used that position to study every aspect of how your empire functions. The display screens changed, showing live feeds from across human territory. Kethara installations were shutting down in sequence. Military bases were being evacuated. Orbital platforms were being systematically deactivated. "We're not destroying your infrastructure," Admiral Chun continued. "We're repurposing it. Every mine you built, every factory you constructed, every communication relay you installed, all of it will serve human colonies instead of Kethara extraction." Quotas. Analysis. Total strategic reversal, achieved through systematic intelligence operation spanning 8 months. Assessment. Human organizational capabilities severely underestimated. Recommendation. Unknown. You have 35 hours, 57 minutes remaining, Admiral Chun said, checking a display that was counting down in precise Kethara time units. I suggest you use that time wisely. The transmission ended. Council Mind Zephyr attempted to formulate a response, but found itself facing a problem it had never encountered. How do you reconquer an empire when the enemy controls all your communication networks, knows all your strategic plans, and has turned your own weapons against you? Status report: Kethara evacuation proceeding ahead of schedule. Details: human forces demonstrating unexpected restraint. No attacks on evacuating vessels. Assessment. Human military doctrine prioritizes strategic objectives over tactical revenge. The withdrawal was completed with 22 hours to spare. The humans had kept their word. No Kethara vessels were attacked during the evacuation. They were simply escorted to the edge of human territory and released. But the humans kept the empire. Final report: Terra sector now under autonomous human control. Analysis. Collective authority terminated through systematic subversion rather than military conquest. Lesson learned. Never underestimate the intelligence of apparently primitive species. Recommendation. Avoid all future contact with humans. Status. Implemented. The Kethara Collective retreated to the far reaches of the galaxy, where they remain to this day. They built new worlds, established new extraction operations, conquered new species, but they never again made the mistake of trusting their slaves with meaningful responsibilities. And in the systems once designated as human territories, something unprecedented was taking shape. The humans had not just freed themselves, they had inherited an interstellar empire. They possessed technology centuries ahead of their natural development, infrastructure spanning dozens of worlds, and detailed intelligence on every major power in the galaxy. What they chose to do with that inheritance would reshape the balance of power for generations to come. The galaxy would never be the same.